Hello Bay Ridge, welcome to another edition of After Hours. This is one where I'm a little bit sweaty because we just finished our first outdoor meeting. It was so good to be back together as a congregation and meeting outside. Really good to get to see everybody there, and looking forward to even more folks as we finish vacation season and people just get their chance to come back. It was really good to be able to worship together again, come to the Lord's table again. And this morning I started a series on what is the church. We're going to be kind of unpacking some things about the church. We're going to be looking at Catechism questions 69, 70, and 71, spread out really over the next couple of months. We're going to be breaking it down. And today I started with the idea that the church is the community of believers. And this is so critical because before we say anything else about the church, in our modern American context, it's very important that we get in our mind fixed, as I was saying today, the church is not a building. The church is not an organization. The church is not a meeting. Scripture doesn't conceive of church in these ways. It conceives of church as the people of God, as the community of faith, the community of believers. And so we have to begin by really understanding that. And I stress this point so much because it's so deeply ingrained. We speak of going to church. And if we mean by that, I'm going to gather with the other believers, that would be okay. But far too often, kind of what we've come to mean by that is I'm going to the building where the church meets. I'm going to a particular meeting. And that's not really a biblical concept for what the scripture means by church. And this is important for us because see, if the church is a building, then during 2020, we've been closed. But see, the church is not a building and we've never been closed. We've just been redeployed. We've been working and gathering other ways. It's been a challenge to figure out how some of that works. But because we're not a building, we can't be closed. Even if persecution broke out and somebody came in and burned down our building and we could not meet here, Bay Ridge Christian Church would still exist. We would be working under very different circumstances, but because church is not a building, we really can't be closed. We are the people of God, and therefore we're always open. We're always gathering together and living out the faith together. And that leads to the second point, which is so essential. Because the church is not a building or an institution or even a series of meetings, but rather it is the people of God. It is important for us to understand that the church does gather for worship. The church is not a meeting, but the church does gather. We do come together to meet and to worship. Just because we're not an institution doesn't mean, well, therefore we're the people of God, so I don't really have to gather with others. I just kind of live my Christian life. They live theirs. Sometimes I meet people, for coffee in a coffee shop. That's not church. Okay, church is a group of people who gather together for worship. Acts chapter 2 shows this, and it shows that worship is in our DNA. And it's essential for us to understand that some people today have kind of a loosey-goosey idea. They very much understand that church is not a building, but therefore it's reduced to, well, I just get together with some of my friends sometimes, or we go out and play golf together and that's church. No, it's not. The church gathers for worship. We gather for word and sacrament, for fellowship, for prayers together, to sing God's praise together. And if we're not doing those things, it's not the gathering of the church. That's not what Acts chapter 2 talks about. Now, to be sure, there are times that make gathering hard. For example, just personal sickness. Earlier this week was worried that I might not be able to come this Sunday because I had last Sunday night went to bed and was feeling something in my throat. And by Monday morning, I was really not feeling well. And so I spent the whole week on the mend, and I had to go down in this current time and get checked for COVID and everything else. But because of personal sickness, sometimes we can't meet. Pandemics and plagues happen. We've been living through this time here in 2020 where there have been all kinds of restrictions on what we do and what we don't do because of the coronavirus. And this is not unique. This has happened many times in the history of the church. It hasn't really happened in a long time here in America or in the West, but it is something that's happened many times throughout the history of the church. And during those times, the church can't gather. And sometimes persecution has driven the gathering underground where it can only be really small groups and you can't get together and just sing at the top of your lungs because of persecution. But those times are the exception. They're not the rule. And so we need to gather whenever possible. And here we have the ability. It may be a little bit inconvenient, but inconvenience is not an excuse for not gathering, because our DNA just makes us want to gather. And so I'm using this episode of After Hours to kind of make a plea, which was part of my teaching, but I want to express it even stronger and more clearly, which is that I want you to make it a priority. We're meeting outside, which has taken a lot of extra logistical effort. It's a lot of work on the people who are leading the singing, on Dave and Danny doing our sound, and on Stephanie trying to figure out how to still get it out there online. Sarah working in the office, having to print the books. It's a lot more complex to do it outside than it is inside, but we're doing it because it allows more people to gather. So I want to encourage you, make it a priority. If you have to miss other things, but don't miss the gathering of believers while we can do this. We have a small window, and as your shepherd, I'm telling you, the time may come where we're going to be back into a time where it's difficult and many people can't gather. Let's not waste the opportunity that we have to actually gather together. And if you are somebody who still can't, because for some reason you can't make it out, it's not even safe for you to be around other people, then we understand that and we support. We're going to continue putting things online each Sunday. We're still going to have After Hours going out. There's still going to be connect groups that can meet online in a variety of things. But I want to encourage you, make that a priority. It's easy as we move through this time to kind of recede and to restrict, and we're no longer living, it's kind of like, sometimes they observe with either animals or, I remember I had a grandchild that broke a leg one time, and because he was so used to being in a cast, even when he came out of the cast, he still acted like his leg was in the cast. We've been restricted in many ways for so long, it's easy to keep acting like that's the case. But thankfully it's not. We really can gather together, and it's important for us to do that. And so even if you can't come out here on Sundays, I want to encourage you, pick up the phone, call somebody, send a text, send an email. If you can meet somebody outside, it's not just that we can meet even outside on Sundays. Take the next couple of months, get together as friends, sit outside and have a picnic together. Take advantage of the good weather to let the church gather and be the church. So critical for us to do this. I really love and am so appreciative of everybody who's part of Bay Ridge. I want to thank you for being part, and for us as we continue to walk through this strange situation of 2020 together. God is with us. He's going to continue to lead us through this, and I'm excited. I believe at the end of this, we're going to look back and God's going to have done very, very good things in our church and then out through our church. So I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to gathering together out in the field next Sunday. God bless.